Rusher will hit the open market after the Bengals decided to not use the franchise tag. Using that tag would have immediately eaten up $30.2 million in cap space, and that's a big number for a team that has a whole lot of holes to fill, especially with that defense. Now, the upside to letting him walk is that the Bengals now have some financial flexibility. The upside for Trey Hendrickson is that he'll probably pick whatever team he wants next. Getting a look at the top 10 pass rushers in free agency, according to our very own Pete Prisco, the aforementioned Trey Hendrickson sitting there at the top, right at number 1. So let's welcome in our NFL analyst, Ryan Wilson, as we discuss landing spots for these edge rushers. And we're going to start right at the top, Ryan, with Trey Hendrickson, where there have been a lot of murmurs, folks predicting him to go to the Colts, reunite him with that former Bengals D coordinator, Lou Anarumo, who is now the DC for Indy. But you're going in another direction.
Hey, Jacqueline, good to see you. I'm going to give producer Boney, Patriots fan, a little present in the form of Trey Hendrickson, who's 31 years old, so he's not a spring chicken, but he hasn't played a lot of football the last few years, in part because of injury, and I'm sure in part because of frustration with how things were going in Cincinnati in terms of getting the deal that he thought he deserved that never really arrived. Also, we see this all the time. You talk about Indy, which is a really good landing spot. They got up to that strong start last year before Daniel Jones got hurt. But veterans that are really good like to go to really good teams with a chance to win a Super Bowl. And we know that the New England Patriots are exactly that. They have their franchise quarterback. That offense came together. They still need some wide receivers, even before they moved on from Stephon Diggs. But they do need to get better along the defensive line. K'Lavon Chaisson was a pleasant surprise, but he's a free agent now. After that, it's pretty slim pickings. Elijah Ponder and Anthony Jenkins. And I think Trey Hendrickson comes in right away and is absolutely electric next to Milton Williams. And then we know about the secondary that starts with Christian Gonzalez. So if you want to play for a team that's going to be really competitive, have a chance to win the division and make it back into a deep playoff run, there's probably few better landing spots than New England for someone like Trey Hendrickson. And they also have the salary cap space too, Jacqueline.
I'm going to call Producer Boney that now. Producer Boney, Patriots fan. I like that. That's his new title. Let's make our way down the list. We're talking about Odafe Oweh, who had 0 sacks in 5 games with the Ravens in 2025. Then gets traded to the Chargers and had 7.5 sacks in 12 games. And Ryan, you're kind of predicting a sort of reunion here back in Baltimore.
Yeah, so he was drafted originally by the Ravens. They sent him out west to L.A. by the trade deadline, where Jesse Minter, defensive coordinator, got the most out of him. And hopefully Jesse Minter and Odafe Oweh carpooled back across the country to Baltimore, because I think if Jesse can do that on the West Coast, he can certainly do it on the East Coast. And the Ravens, their defense was not very good last year for a ton of reasons, in part because of injury. We know how good Kyle Hamilton is, but he certainly could not do it by himself after they lost Matt Abike up front along the defensive line, and the edge rush, as you pointed out, just never quite clicked even before and after they moved on from Odafe Oweh. So bring him back. Let Jesse Minter continue to work his magic. The ironic thing is going to cost you a lot more now. If you had just kept him on the roster and had the fifth-year option, you're saving a few pennies there. But the Ravens have a little salary cap room to work around with, and they do have to absolutely fix that front four, because you cannot be competitive in the AFC North if you cannot stop the run or stop the pass. And I think Odafe Oweh proved, even as a situational pass rusher, that he can be a difference maker. And we saw that again. The New England Patriots got a first-hand taste of what that looked like in the playoffs.
All right, now let's get to Cam Jordan, where I'm not sure we were really expecting to be talking about this a couple of months ago, but couldn't get to an agreement with the Saints. He's going to hit free agency for the first time in his 15-year NFL career. So what does the market look like for a guy like Cam Jordan?
So this is going to be a Von Miller type situation. And the good news for Cam Jordan is that Von Miller went to the Commanders as someone in his mid-30s, and all he did was lead that team in sacks. Now, the Commanders' defense was terrible, and that's a disrespect to the word terrible, how bad they were. But it wasn't because of Von Miller. Cam Jordan might do the Trey Hendrickson route and go to a team that has a chance to get to the playoffs and make a deep run. That's why I like him going to the Buffalo Bills. Joey Bosa is a free agent. A.J. Epinesa, who they drafted a few years ago, free agent, and Cam Jordan can come in as a situational pass rusher, as someone in his mid-30s, and just wreak havoc on third downs, and then go to the bench for 10 minutes and do it again the next third down. And I think that's best case scenario for him. I'm guessing he won't ask for a lot of money, and the Bills have other needs for sure along that defense, but he feels like a good fit, and maybe even a better fit than Joey Bosa was last year, in that he'll be a little bit cheaper and probably just as effective when he's healthy. So I like the idea of him coming to Western New York and chasing that ring.
All right, finally, we're getting to Jalen Phillips, who went from Miami to Philly. Injuries could maybe give some teams some pause. Tore his Achilles in 2023. It was the ACL in 2024. And when I talked to him at Dolphins training camp, he talked about how hard he was working to get back to, peak performance. And in 2025, showed us still has some juice left, Ryan. So what are some potential landing spots for him?
Yeah, he certainly was blessed to go to the Eagles with a chance to make a deep playoff run. It obviously didn't work out in Philadelphia. So now he gets to choose the team, and he's going to, again, do what Trey Hendrickson and Cam Jordan perhaps should choose to do. He's going to the Bears, though, in this case. And they have Montez Sweat, who has been sort of a one-man band as an edge rusher. Deo Odabingo tore his Achilles last November, so he may not be ready. They do have Austin Booker, who is a fun player who's going into year 3 now, and he flashed down the stretch last year. But I think if you were able to pair someone opposite Montez Sweat in the form of Jalen Phillips, that's going to create a lot of problems for the other teams in the NFC North because, as you point out, Jacqueline, when he's healthy, he is hard to stop, and we know how good Montez Sweat can be. So that feels like a pretty good landing spot. The Bears will have money to pay him if they so choose. They do have other needs, sort of. They moved on from DJ Moore, but they got a draft pick in return, so they can get wide receiver depth if that's what they want to do in the draft. But if you're looking for a game changer who's a first-round talent, who's proven it when he's been healthy, Jalen Phillips makes a lot more sense than perhaps any edge rusher that might be available when they pick in the late 20s.
Yeah, the Bears really looking to, build upon that magical year 1 that they had under Ben Johnson.
That has been his home up until now. Let's welcome in our senior NFL insider, Jonathan Jones here. JJ, look, you've got an article about your insider's notebook on CBSSports.com, and you do talk about Maxx Crosby. Let's start with him and potentially the Bears trying to court him.
Yeah, let's start with Max, who, Amanda, did you know this? His name is Max with 2 X's because he was born 11 pounds, 9 ounces, so his mom added an extra X because he was just so big. That's actually a true story. Maxx Crosby, I do believe, according to sources, is on his way out of Las Vegas. He has played his last down as a Las Vegas Raider. It's just a matter of where he is going to go. And when I posted that story a couple of days ago, it certainly appeared, and still does appear to some degree, like he could be a Chicago Bear. This is a team that wants to maximize Caleb Williams' rookie contract. They have the money to spend. They've been clearing cap space. They had Drew Dahlman's retirement. They just traded away DJ Moore. They're letting go of Tremaine Edmonds. And so they have cap space. Well, why are they making so much cap space? For whom could it be? Perhaps one of the better pass rushers in the NFL today. And you'd say, okay, well, why that, right? Why that player at that position? Well, first of all, he is a game wrecker, a game changer. He is the type of player that defensive coordinators have to game plan around on Monday when they know they are facing the Bears 6.5 days later. But the other point of this is we've seen the last 2 Super Bowl champions, the Philadelphia Eagles and the Seattle Seahawks, winning with their front 4, not having to send extra blitzers and all that. It helps out everything. It changes the math. It makes life easier on the rest of the defense. And so in Dennis Allen's defense, if they can have a top-flight front 4 rushing the passer, led by Maxx Crosby, along with a Montez Sweat on the opposite side, that could change the game for the Chicago Bears and get them over that hump as they continue to ascend. So that's why there's interest there. They have the draft capital in order to acquire him. It's just a matter of, do they want to part with what John Spytek, the general manager of the Las Vegas Raiders, wants? 2 1s, don't know if he's going to get that, but a 1 and something else, perhaps that could be what we see.
So the Bears in a good position. There are some other teams. Look, this is Maxx Crosby we're talking about, a guy who was named because he was 11 pounds. Everyone's been after him since he was just a wee little lad. Cowboys, Eagles, and Ravens. You are also hearing that they could potentially be in the market for Maxx Crosby. What do you know about those teams?
Yeah, so the Cowboys have that extra first-round draft pick, kind of don't have anything after that for a little bit because of the Micah Parsons trade. So could they use one of those picks and then a future pick in order to acquire Maxx Crosby? Certainly you have to consider them in the mix. The Baltimore Ravens have been a team since yesterday, I've been told, very much in the mix. They're losing some defensive players. Again, they want to be able to win up front. Jesse Minter, the new head coach and defensive play caller there. And then the last team, the Philadelphia Eagles. And a lot of this has to do with reputation. Howie Roseman in on every deal, the general manager there. So why would he not be in on a deal for Maxx Crosby? But as recently as yesterday, the Eagles were also very interested in extending a lot of their young guys up front. So you would think that if they were going to make a move, that they would have to send away one of those players in order to obtain Maxx Crosby. So those are three other teams that could be in the mix. Ultimately, there are other teams around the NFL that have an eye on Maxx Crosby. Again, 2-1s. I don't know that the Raiders are going to get that. But to get Maxx Crosby, a 1 and then something, again, that could be done.
Talk to us a little bit more about the Eagles because they have a couple decisions to make, one of them being A.J. Brown. Look, those two sides have been at each other for a while now. And I am being told, look, that the DJ Moore trade kind of wrecked the Patriots' plan to go and get A.J. Brown. How is this working out, and do we potentially still see him moved?
Yeah, so the DJ Moore trade, because he went for a 2, right, that it was a second-round pick, and of course they had to send a fifth-round pick, so you could argue because it's a late 2 and then you take away the fifth-round pick, it's really a high 3, whatever. He went for a 2 is what everyone in the NFL would ultimately tell you, and what Howie Roseman would tell you. Well, we have A.J. Brown. That's a better wide receiver than DJ Moore, and so if DJ Moore went for a 2, well, we're definitely getting at least a 1 for A.J. Brown. Now, the Philadelphia Eagles asking price could be a little high, a 1 and a 3. Oh, man, that is really steep for the 29-year-old wide receiver. But the difference here is you have his contract done, yes. And, well, the Philadelphia Eagles have to, if they were to trade him, their salary cap is actually going to go up by $20 million, Amanda. This does not help the Philadelphia Eagles salary cap situation, sending away one of their best players. You could say and argue quite well that it doesn't help the Philadelphia Eagles on the field in 2026, but there is no question it does not help their salary cap situation in 2026 if they trade him. And so because of that, Howie Roseman is going to stick to what he wants before he trades away A.J. Brown. But that said, this could also be a game of chicken because folks believe, or you could say that they know, that the Eagles aren't going to hang on to A.J. Brown, certainly past that June 1 date where it would be easier for them to let him go because of the cap. So because of all of that, we are almost at an impasse, almost at a standoff. Where is A.J. Brown going to go? You're going to hear the New England Patriots. You're going to hear them for very good reason. I would say that they're probably at the top right now, but until a real offer escapes the lips of those in Foxborough and goes to the ear of Howie Roseman in Philadelphia, no deal yet has been done.
The Eagles trying to get back to the Super Bowl, as are the Kansas City Chiefs. You mentioned in your notebook that the Chiefs are looking for running back help. Arguably, one of the biggest names out there, Kenneth Walker, the third Super Bowl champ and Super Bowl MVP. The Seahawks decided not to tag him. So the Chiefs are interested, the Broncos, the Jags, all potential contenders next season. Where do things stand around Kenneth Walker III?
Yeah, so those three teams certainly in the mix. We'll see if the Kansas City Chiefs, with their precious money, want to allocate so much of that to Kenneth Walker III. What is that number going to wind up being? Is it going to be $12 million per year, 13, 14 for the Super Bowl MVP? Man, what a fantastic playoff run. Really good time for Kenneth Walker III to have that sort of run, right when it was time to cash in. The Broncos, though, they did have R.J. Harvey, though they did have J.K. Dobbins this past season. I'm told that they are interested in Kenneth Walker III. And then the Jaguars, probably not bringing back Travis Etienne. Yes, they have Bashal Tutin, but could they make a move? We know that James Gladstone, the young general manager there, likes to zig maybe when others zag, likes to be aggressive. We saw that last year in the draft when they made that move for Travis Hunter. So why wouldn't the Jacksonville Jaguars do something that, maybe you wouldn't expect them to do in making that run at Kenneth Walker III? Could there be another team that emerges? The Giants, I know they've been tossed about a little bit. I don't know that that's the sandbox the Giants are going to be playing in necessarily for Kenneth Walker III and at that price point. But I would anticipate that plenty of contenders are interested in his services, and those being Kansas City, Denver, and Jacksonville, certainly three of them.
And, of course, you could potentially just stay there in Seattle. I think the fans would be happy about that. You've cracked open your notebook a little bit for us. We're going to open it up even more. We've got some of your stories here, rapid fire. These are your notes from your article. I encourage everybody to check it out on CBSSports.com. Okay, I think producer Noah is putting you to the test here. Rapid fire, take us through these stories and what we need to know about them.
Well, first of all, I'm going into my notebook right now. Kyler Murray emerging as a potential suitor with the Minnesota Vikings. Why? Well, he's only going to cost $1.3 million. Why? Because he's going to be able to choose where he wants to go, because he is still a capable enough player. The Minnesota Vikings need a capable veteran quarterback to go up against J.J. McCarthy and hopefully win that competition in Week 1. Dolphins struggling to move Tua Tagovailoa. I know you're going to say, wow, Jonathan, is that really news? Didn't you report that months ago? Yes, but sometimes we recycle the news, especially as it relates to being a week before they ultimately release him and absorb a historic dead cap hit of $99 million. Could potentially a team trade with the Miami Dolphins and take on his contract? Only if the Miami Dolphins are willing to part with at least a first-round pick and maybe even more. That's not going to happen. He will be released and free to sign with someone at $1.3 million. Kirk Cousins, in a rush to sign? Not really. Remember, 2 years ago with the Atlanta Falcons, he signed just as free agency opened. A bit of a tampering issue that led to, but also what happened 6 weeks later, the Atlanta Falcons at number 8 overall select Michael Penix Jr. Kirk Cousins does not want that to happen again, so he may let things settle in the quarterback market before he lands on a place to go, but he does want to play in 2026. Titans linked to Wan'Dale Robinson. You may say, Jonathan, is that really news? Isn't that the worst kept secret in the NFL? Yes, it is, but somebody has to write it, and, well, I'm Jonathan Jones, and I'm writing it. And lastly, the Jets face a very difficult situation there at quarterback. This is not a very good football team. Who wants to go play for the New York Jets if they have options? Not very many people. So what is going to happen? Either someone is going to get traded there, or the Jets are going to have to open up the pocketbook and overpay for someone to acquire their services. But if you're a Kyler Murray, do you want to go to the Jets? No. If you're a Tua Tagovailoa, does either side want Tua in New York? I don't think so. We'll see what sort of veteran they ultimately can land on there. With gangrene, that is the end of the notebook.
Jonathan Jones, that is why you are the very best. Kudos to you for knowing all of that off the top of your head. Make sure to follow him on social media. Check out, once again, his article, his Insider Notebook on CBSSports.com. Okay, next week, a very, very busy week in the NFL. Monday, that tampering window, it opens. Teams are able to talk to those free agents. And then Wednesday, they can sign them. The league year officially